Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back, and if you are new, thanks for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today is Family Day here in Alberta, so we have a long weekend and it's time that we can spend with our families. So if you are also celebrating Family Day or have a long weekend, then I hope that you get to enjoy it. Last week I talked about the author Wally Lamb in one of my tag videos, and I thought for this week I would talk a little bit more about Wally Lamb for the Reading All the Books, which is a series where I highlight one author in which I've read all of their books, or at least a category, I guess, of all of their books. So it might be that I've read all of their fiction, all of their non-fiction, or all of their poetry, something like that. The rules are pretty simple. In order to be highlighted, the author has to have at least 3 or more books published. And Wally Lamb has published 8 books, and I have read 7 of them. I have read all of the books that he wrote himself, and I will explain that a little bit more when I get to the books. And I also share the books in the order that I enjoyed them, so from the least enjoyed to most enjoyed. Wally Lamb is an auto-buy author for me. I have mentioned him many times, I know, that he's one of my favorite authors. And I've been reading his books since his debut novel. And he's the first, I believe he's the first, and probably one of the only authors to have more than one book featured on Oprah's book club. So one in 1992 and one in 1998. And yes, I have been reading Wally Lamb a long time. So Wally Lamb is an American author from Connecticut, and he was a high school English teacher, which is fantastic, and also a creative writing professor. And one of the really cool things about Wally Lamb that I just think is so great is that he volunteered for 20 years at York Correctional Institute. This is a women's prison. And there he offered writing workshops, and that brings me to the first 2 books. So I want to talk about these 2 books. There are 2 collections that have been published from those workshops that he did. And Wally Lamb edited them. The first was Couldn't Keep It to Myself, Wally Lamb and the Women of York Correctional Institute. And then the second is I'll Fly Away, Further Testimonies from the Women of York Prison. And this is the one that I have read. This was published in 2003. But basically both of these collections are essays or short stories about the women's lives, why they've been incarcerated, their lives before incarceration, and their dreams after they are free. And some of them are very raw, and I can only imagine, what these writing workshops were like for both the women and for Wally Lamb himself. The next book that I want to take a look at is one of Wally Lamb's novels. So he has published 6 novels, and the first one I'm going to talk about is I'll Take You There. This was published in 2016, and the main character is Felix, who runs a film club in an old vaudeville theater. And one night, when he's getting the film set up and ready for the evening, the ghost of Lois Weber appears to him. And Lois had been a motion picture director of silent films. And Lois shows Felix scenes from his life on the big screen. And as he revisits his past like this, he comes to an understanding of the women in his life. And I loved the concept of this story and the time frame and how pop culture and old Hollywood were brought into the story. I also think that Wally Lamb writes female characters very, very well. So I like that he has, Lois and the three women from Felix's life in this. Up next is a novella called Wishin and Hopin, which is a Christmas story, and it was published in 2009, and it features the same character as I'll Take You There, except in this one, the story is Felix when he is only in the 5th grade. So this book is great if you like a Christmas read, a quick Christmas read. And if you're a fan of A Christmas Story, it really has those kind of vibes. The next novel is We Are Water. This was published in 2013, and it takes place in Connecticut. And as I said, Wally Lamb writes female characters so well. And in this novel, the focus is on Annie O, I think is her last name, who is a wife and mother, but she has fallen in love with another woman. And gay marriage has recently been legalized in Connecticut when this story takes place, and she plans on marrying Vivica. And this book, for its time, even in 2013, was a big deal. Wally Lamb was so awesome for writing a story like this and not shying away from, a number of topics like class and racial violence, same-sex marriage. So this was a really good book. I liked that it was told from alternating perspectives, and in many ways it's too bad that it didn't get as much attention as some of his other books. Up next, this book. The Hour I First Believed was published in 2008, and it is a powerful story. It takes place in 1999 in Littleton, Colorado. Caleb and Maureen Quirk, I think their last name is, have moved from Connecticut, and they have found jobs at Columbine High School. Caleb is back in Connecticut when the Columbine shootings take place, but his wife Maureen is in the library, and she's expecting that she probably won't even live. And although this is a fictional account, Wally Lamb used many, if not all, of the real names of the people involved in the Columbine shooting. The story continues afterwards, and it's about how Caleb and Maureen attempt to deal with the trauma from this and the secrets that Caleb finds out about his own family. This was a very emotional read, but it is so well written. It's definitely worth reading if you get a chance. Okay, so we are down to the last two of my favorite Wally Lambs. So in the second spot is I Know This Much Is True. Oh, some of his books are huge. This was published in 1998, and this is actually the first book that I read by Wally Lamb. It's how I was introduced to him. It was also the second time that one of his books was chosen for the Oprah's book club. This is about Dominic Birdsey. He is the narrator of the story, and Dominic has a twin brother named Thomas, and Thomas has schizophrenia. And the story has a few different storylines from the twins in their younger years, pretty much up until like when Thomas is diagnosed with schizophrenia. And then there's kind of the present day when the book begins with a very powerful scene of Thomas self-harming himself in a library. And then there's also the storyline of the twins' grandfather, which Dominic is finding out kind of little by little. And this book has so many big themes in it, and it is also an emotional read. There is also a series out based on this novel. I haven't watched it yet. It's still on my list, so maybe I'll get to that soon. And then finally, my favorite book by Wally Lamb was his debut novel, published in 1992. She's Come Undone, and this was the other Oprah book club. And I read this right after I Know This Much Is True, because I thought nothing could beat that book. But the way, like I said, Wally Lamb writes the character of women, and in this case Dolores, it just blew me away. This is a coming-of-age story, and one of the few books that have made me cry. I was actually shedding tears on public transit on my way to my university class when I was reading this. And Dolores is only 13 years old when the story begins, and I was astonished at how well Wally Lamb could write a teenage girl who was dealing with so much. And Dolores has a lot going on, and through therapy she decides to take control of her life, but life isn't always that easy, and this is just such a good book. And along with I Know This Much Is True, it is among my all-time favorite books, and they're just fantastic. So those are all the Wally Lamb books. If you are looking for an emotional, kind of grab your heart kind of a read, then most of these will fill that. So please let me know if you have read any Wally Lamb. What books have you liked or not liked? I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Happy Family Day from this Canuck, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.